Hello everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. My name is Jamie and I am a mom to three kiddos. My son is 13 and he is autistic, and then I have two typically developing daughters. And this week's video is not about homeschooling, but it is about teaching my son to ride a bicycle. Now, in the picture card, you saw all three of my children going and getting ready for a bike ride. And that has been a long time coming, and I am so very, very thankful to say that that dream of having us go on a bike ride has actually come true this summer. So this is really a celebration of how it happened. And I thought I would share because if you've met a child with autism, you have met a single child with autism. They're not all alike, but by and large, or generally, our children on the autism spectrum do struggle with this skill of riding a bike because there's so many different components happening at all the same time, and their brains sometimes in an overly sensory world where the sun is shining and there's noises of cars and people and birds and all of the rest that goes on. It is just too much for them to get on board and learn all of those things that has to happen in order to ride a bike, plus all of those sensory things. So the other thing I need to say is it took me about 5 years to teach my son to ride his tricycle big boy bike that has 3 wheels. But I need to explain that I live in Alberta, Canada, which means that we've got 4 to 5 months of prime bike weather before the snow comes in, the cold comes in, and the bikes get put away. So for me, this process was a lot longer than I think it would be for most people, especially if you live down south where the bikes are always out. So Darrion didn't show a lot of interest in his bikes. We did get him one of those ones without the pedals, so the balance bike, and he literally showed zero interest. It was more of a fine if we wanted to take a picture of him with it. He was more tolerant of it than was really motivated to do it. And so it was one of those things where my husband and I were talking about it and going, okay, eventually he might want to do this. And so maybe we need to look at the bigger 3-wheel bikes where learning how to balance is not necessarily as important. So it's not one of the key components. And the other thing that we thought of, so we ended up having the opportunity to buy a bicycle from a family member who wasn't using theirs, and so we got it a great deal, a great price, which was why we went for it. And Darrion was still quite small. Now, most people, the manufacturers for sure, do not recommend doing this, but I felt it fairly safe to do because we only live in a small town and I was only jotting off from little places, but I wanted him to get used to the feel of what it's like to be on a bike, and Darrion was happy to sit in the little basket that's in the back of his bike. Now, again, he wore a helmet. He wasn't trying to get out of it, but it gave him the feeling of what it's like to go down a little hill and feel the wind in your face and in your kind of hair with your helmet on. We were able to go do things that he really enjoyed doing, like going and getting treats from the corner store, and things like that really helped motivate him and want to go on the bike in that form, in the basket. But I was always driving. I was always in control. I was controlling the speed. I was making sure we weren't going too fast and that we were safe and all the other things. So that was like the first 2 years, I would say. I would put him on the bicycle seat and take pictures and have him kind of move the steering, but it wasn't something that he particularly enjoyed. And so when it came time to the next year, he was starting to get too big. He was starting to get too big for the basket. And we're getting to the place where I knew he liked going on the bicycle, and now it was just gently pushing him to do the next thing, to get used to the next thing. So that the following year, so year 3, was all about him sitting on the bicycle seat and learning how to steer. So I was behind him, pushing the basket or pulling the basket to a stop if I needed to, and him wearing his helmet, sitting on the bike and just steering. So it was one of those things where he balked a lot, but again, it was about going to the store, doing a preferred activity, and him going, okay, if I want that preferred activity, I have to do this little bit. And he was actually fairly proficient at it. I was worried when we went by vehicles that were parked on the side of the road. I'm like, please don't scratch up somebody's vehicle. But I did feel a little bit okay, because I always had the basket in order to pull him to a stop and then redirect if we needed to. And so that was the next year, and he was a little bit frustrated because I got a new bike and it was pink, and he was like, no, mommy doesn't get the pink bike, she has the blue bike. And he was really trying to get us back to where we had been, and I just stopped riding his bike entirely. I'm like, no, this is Darrion's bike. And he would get frustrated on occasion, but it was more just really, again, stretching that and going, okay, this is something that you can do. So the next year, year 4, was about having him do the steering, but also doing the pedals. And he really preferred not to. But again, that preferred activity generally pushed it to the point where he generally wanted to. Now, that one in particular was a struggle because we didn't go to the preferred activity very often. It was something that I had to really work at, because it was something, if he wanted to sit and do nothing, that meant that I was pushing him up a hill. Wasn't something that I really wanted to do, but he learned, and it was a slow and steady process to do it. We have like a little cul-de-sac in our area, and that was where it really took off. And then the 5th year was about teaching him to brake when I told him, brake on command, if you will. And part of that was I never felt confident enough to have my own bike unless he was going to be able to listen about braking. So on turns, if there was a car coming and I wasn't feeling that it was safe, it was brake, and he knows how to do it. And yesterday was actually the first time where he was like, no, Mom, I want to go fast. And I'm like, oh, buddy. But it's just one of those things where, I mean, he's 13 years old, so he has that boy spirit where I want to go fast, I want to enjoy this. And Mommy's going, when you turn over a 3-wheel bike, it is not pretty. There's no jumping off. And so I'm aware of the consequences a little bit more than him. But this was the first year that I could take him different places. And I'm very aware to avoid hills in particular. So we'll take the long way around to get to certain places, just because I really don't want him to struggle going downhill and then flying into traffic because he's not braking as he goes along. Yeah, we want to avoid the crashes if at all possible. But I'm really proud of him. We do this little line, conga line, if you will, where I'm in the front, he's behind me, so that if he runs into anybody, it's going to be me, not his sisters. And then his sisters take up the rear, where Inara can let me know if he's struggling, if I don't see something right away. And it's just lovely to be able to take him. I did recognize, though, that we went down to our library, and everything is downhill. So going there was actually quite amazing. It was good. But going up, I actually had to get off my bike, push him up because his leg was so tired. I'm so tired. So I would park my bike, push him up the hill, go run back and grab my bike while the girls were watching that he didn't take off, and then go back, and then we'd go another further distance. And then there were some times where, again, crossing the road is still a skill that we're learning. And again, to be safe, I often do that. I get off my bike, I push him across, making sure that he recognizes that the cars are stopped for us on busy roads, because that's one of those things where we can't get anywhere without crossing at least one busy road. And so that's the big thing, is just keeping an eye and making sure. But I mean, this is something that I never was really 100% sure would happen. It was a long, drawn out process, but I'm happy to say that he's doing it. He is doing it. And I'm so excited. But yeah, breaking down each step made a big difference. Each summer for us was about mastering steering around corners. The next one was mastering steering while doing the pedals. And then the last step was braking and making sure that he recognized when mommy says brake, you brake. The next part is going to be, you know, curbing that boy enthusiasm for danger and speed. But he's doing it, and I'm so excited. So I hope this video has helped you, encouraged you. If you are interested in homeschool content, in autism content, and just random life content, then feel free to subscribe and click the notification button so you don't miss our next couple of videos. They come every Sunday. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.